Hello everyone, this is Mercedes. I think you probably got the hint that I will be talking about the law enforcement. That's the overall topic or the theme of my paper. And the topics that I'll be addressing is the recruitment, the selection, training, and unions. So to begin with the first step, recruitment, you have to consider your population that you're recruiting for. And I ended up selecting a few photos here because the articles that I was reading is some of the methods that they've been using for recruitment have tended to be a bit outdated. And especially in some of the low-income minority neighborhoods, it's preferable to select images or have people of, I guess, either African American, Latino, Asian, whatever community that they are recruiting for or that they're going to be policing, probably should reflect that neighborhood. And then, I put a few images here to show that. When applying for the law enforcement, whether it's police, sheriff, probably even on the federal level, there's usually a few different steps that you're going to have to partake with. And this was an image that I found on the internet. There's usually going to be some sort of, well, even prior to the selection process, what tends to be helpful is that there's actually a lot of training programs that physically help you get physically in shape for the academy. So even before your application is submitted, it's probably a good idea for somebody to participate with something like that, to be mentally and physically prepared. And it goes through the steps: the written assessment, writing skills, background investigation, psychological evaluation. I know some offices or police departments actually conduct a lie detector test. Then step 5 here, it shows the interview with the chief of police, medical evaluations, and then the actual selection process. So these are some of the steps that a candidate might go through. And we'll be moving on. And the training is another topic. So training in law enforcement is definitely, important because they're experiencing, these officers are experiencing all different types of situations out in the real world and need the preparation to be, I guess, ready for something. And the trainings definitely need to be relevant. So here we have the officers in a classroom setting, and that's probably part of it because there is going to be a lot of workshops. Then you have the physical training, knowing how to be prepared for combat, and that's going to be important, as well as right here, showing techniques, and these are very relevant out in the field. Another type of training, probably experienced more in the classroom, would be knowing how to deal with, domestic violence, multicultural diversity, and these are some of the topics that are probably very important and need to be talked about within the departments now because of all of the police violence and everything that's happening on the streets. Officers do need to be more aware of handling the situations. One thing I did read and I thought was interesting is that there was a few articles that share the importance of women being in the police force, how it brings in a new element and a more peaceful way of handling situations. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So my last topic is the union contracts. So the union will assist the officers with defining their salaries and their fringe benefits. That's how the union protects the employees. A lot of the police departments are working on a smaller budget, so there's going to have to be collective bargaining to make sure that both sides of the table do meet in the middle and find some sort of agreement. And that's usually done by union reps and police administration. And so the unions are going to attempt to increase the economic reward for its beneficiaries. So I found many of my articles. My first step, I actually contacted the librarian. It was the 24/7 librarian, and was able to have a conversation with them to figure out maybe what journals might be the best to do my research. And her suggestion, Elizabeth was my librarian, she recommended using the 3 options that I have here, criminal justice abstracts and the psych articles. And I was able to come across a few articles that were very helpful. Terms, while I was doing my search, consisted of selection process and law enforcement, barriers in law enforcement and selection process, training in law enforcement, training police officers, collective bargaining, law enforcement, and the last one was police unions. When I ended up using the term police unions, I wasn't able to find anything, so that phrase was not very helpful. It ended up bringing up a lot of information about European Union and law enforcement, and that wasn't the direction I was taking my paper in. So those are a few of the terms that I used. And to conclude, here's my APA citation. I use this format because it was located in a journal. So I have the last name, comma, first name, period, comma. And this is the actual format for every name. All the names leading up until the very last will use this and sign. And then you state the last person who is who contributed to the article, and it's alphabetically, so B, L, W, W. Here's the year that the article was published. The title of the article, Recruiting for Diversity in Law Enforcement, an Evaluation of Practices Used by State and Local Agencies. So all of the letters, or the first letters of every word, are more or less lowercase except for the first word of the title. And moving on to the journal is italicized, which is the Journal of Ethnicity and Criminal Justice, comma, issue, comma, and then page number. And this one actually had the DOI, and I included it right here. So thanks for watching my presentation, and hopefully some of these resources helped you. Thanks everybody for their contribution in the chapter reviews. Those were very helpful, and I enjoyed getting to meet some of you. So thank you. You guys have a great rest of the weekend. Bye-bye.